You know what? Take the news chair, because I don't think we. You know what? I think we never ordered new nameplates. So
There's a nameplate for John. He's usually on the end.
Yeah, he was here in person.
I thought he had.
Is that it?
I don't know that I don't know that we had ever. I don't know that we had gotten to it. So I don't think the new is coming.
No, you had a nameplate.
Okay.
Because you were on the
Sorry.
end.
I was always on the end. I get to sit next to you
Because
guys.
I was the other alternate, so.
Yeah, we've somehow not got enough.
If I fall asleep, you'll kick me.
We're one chair short.
We won't do this. You have one? Well, Jen
I
can
don't.
actually-
I don't know that we got around to ordering it before we went.
Yeah, he left.
I'll turn it like that so nobody.
He's going to Harvard. That might make it.
I don't remember him.
You had one, because you've been here like a year.
I've been here too.
He was one of the main movers and shakers.
Time has no meaning anymore. I don't know.
That's true.
The new comes. Where do I go?
There's a chair over here. They can get a mic off. We are straight.
Oh, yeah.
They're a chair short over there.
So you can sit right between Ken and
We are settled.
Olin,
Yeah, 'cause that's where the chair is.
but you don't have a computer. Well, you have your own.
We'll make it work. I think she just brought a whole bunch in.
I've got a gavel.
Jennifer, do you have?
That's new.
Right here.
I call to order the July 6th Inland Wetlands Agency. Oh, I need this microphone. Okay, very good.
Yeah, everyone will need to make sure they speak into their mics this evening.
Yes.
That's right. This is a new experience. Great to be in person. Back to the olden days. I call to order the Inland Wetlands Agency meeting of July 6, 2021 at 6:32 p.m. And members present are Aho, Acorsi, Cooley, Cotton, Plant, Ron, Ward, and alternate DeVivo. who's seated for missing member Chandy, right. Okay. We have minutes from June 7th. Someone like to put that forward?
I'll move that we accept the minutes of Inland Wetlands Agency for June 7th, 2021 as presented.
Moved by Ward, second by Plant. All in favor? Passes unanimously. Okay. Yep. We don't have to approve the field trip.
No, you just
No.
have to know
Okay.
them. Yep.
Okay. Well, there was a field trip on June 14th. Louder. Hello. Okay. All right. In your packet, there were things from the Conservation Commission.
I'm going to speak to the application, but we'll.
Okay. And we have a public hearing tonight with regard to the application for a single-family dwelling on Pleasant Valley Road. And would you like to read the necessary items? It's a little shorter now in person, right?
A little bit, yes.
A little bit shorter.
So, okay. The following legal notice was published in the Willimantic Chronicle on June. Bear with me here.
And we're opening this.
Oh, yes. Opening the public hearing at 6:35.
Okay.
Oh,
Why
and
don't you go
members
ahead?
present,
Yep.
yes. Got to learn all this stuff again. I'm out of practice, yeah. Opening the public hearing at 6:35 p.m. with members present: Aho, Corsi, Cooley, Cotton, Plant, Ron, Ward, and alternate DeVivo, who is seated.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to read the guidelines for public hearings?
Please, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to receive relevant information about the proposed application from the public. Order and decorum shall be maintained at all times during the hearing. The Commission reserves the right to adjourn the hearing to another date and time if the discussion becomes unruly and unmanageable. The order of presentations this evening will be first the applicant and then public comment in the order of support, opposition, and then undetermined or request for additional information. When addressing the agency, please state your name and address and any party, group, or organization you represent, if any, for the record before beginning your comments. Limit your comments to the subject of the public hearing. Avoid repetition where possible. Summarize reports and letters that are submitted to the agency rather than reading them aloud, as all written information is copied and distributed to members. Direct all questions and comments to the chair. Do not attempt to engage in dialogue with members of the agency staff or any parties to the hearing. Speak clearly to ensure your comments are audible to members of the public watching from home and are recorded. Agency members may ask questions of anyone providing testimony but will not discuss the relative merits of the application until the hearing is closed. Failure to abide by these policies and procedures may result in dismissal from the hearing.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I will now read the legal notice. The following legal notice was published in the Willimantic Chronicle on June 24th and on July 2nd. The Mansfield Inland Wetlands Agency will hold the following public hearing on Tuesday, July 6th in the Council Chamber, AP Beck Building, 4 South Eagleville Road, Mansfield, Connecticut, to hear comments regarding the following application. 6:30 p.m. Application of R. Cardinal for a single-family dwelling, on-site septic system and drinking water well and driveway with a wetland crossing on property located on the north side of Pleasant Valley Road, immediately east of 149-155 Pleasant Valley Road. Assessor's parcel ID 36.88.90. No information from the public shall be received after the close of the public hearing. Additional information regarding this application is available at the planning office. Paul Aho, Chair, Banu Chandy, Secretary. So,
Okay, so we start with the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Matt Maynard. I am with the firm of Town Engineering Incorporated, and I am representing the applicant this evening, Robert Cardinal, for our
Mr. Menard, we're going to wait and give you a mic so that the public can hear you. Thank you. Maynard, I meant. Not Menard.
Thank you. So, good evening. Would you like me to repeat and restart? So, good evening. My name is Matt Maynard. I'm with the firm of Town Engineering Incorporated, and tonight I am here representing the applicant and the landowner, Robert Cardinal, for this wetlands application on Pleasant Valley Road in Mansfield, Connecticut. This project involves just a single-family home for Mr. Cardinal. This is where he would like to live the rest of his days, and currently to do that we need to cross the wetlands in one spot. Mr. Cardinal currently owns around 85 acres of land on Pleasant Valley Road, and is currently going to take about 5 acres of that and make that his home site. Currently the property is served by two crossings that cross the wetlands associated with this property. One is an existing reinforced concrete pipe at the southeasterly end of the project site, and services a farm road. Mr. Cardinal would like to continue the use of the farm road and not have the farm road activities and whatever recreational uses he would like to do with his farm road be mixed in with his driveway. So with that in mind, that's why we went and are here tonight. The crossing that we are proposing to utilize is actually somewhat existing. It has currently in it two plastic ADS pipes that convey the stormwater to the south. And as part of this application, we would like to put one more additional culvert in it, and then of course get our permit. One other point of disturbance in the wetlands that we're going to have to do as part of this project, because the land is so flat, we had a hard time getting his footing drain to work. We've had to go to a crawl space type construction with this home, and we had to come out and do just a little bit of wetlands disturbance on the northeast side of the property. Currently, this land is a farm field on Pleasant Valley Road. On my map I'm showing you here, the green is outlined is the outline of the wetlands, and I would like just to more everybody to get their orientation of the site and make sure you know where it is and see what we're really up to here. Mr. Cardinal really hopes at the end of this he would like to, and he's currently working with the NRCS to do some pollinator crops and some pollinator grasslands in part of this, up into probably about the limits that we actually show on both this plan and our site plan, just past the north ponds that are associated with this project, and stop his grasslands there. Inside the grasslands, he would like just about an acre of lawn that he would maintain inside the home envelope, and continue the use of his property. I have a health department approval. I have approval from Derek Delay, the assistant town engineer, and we are here to answer any questions or comments you have.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission? Could you explain a little bit more about why you couldn't use the existing farm road?
Sure. Robert, would you like to speak for that a little bit?
Hi, I'm Robert Cardinal. So what I was trying to do here, and as you can see, we do have an existing crossing right here. It has a large concrete pipe that runs through that, and it's not in good condition, okay? It's actually falling apart, and I have a lot of heavy equipment, farm vehicles, tractors, so on and so forth, and I really wouldn't like to use that to get to the rear end of my property. Being that the house is going to be here with the driveway going that way, I don't want my heavy equipment going down my driveway, ruining it, constantly having to fix it. Now this is an existing farm crossing, and what I'm proposing is bringing the driveway across the existing farm crossing and continuing it to my house. So I'd use this to continue to access the rear end of my property, as well as, until I can not use it anymore. So this concrete pipe actually runs from the edge of my property into the neighbor's adjoining property. So in order for us to do anything with that, we'd have to get permission from the neighbor as well. Okay. Back when it was put in, I don't think they had a clear idea of where the property lines were. Once we had it surveyed, it's on the neighbor's property as well. So keeping this farm access for me to use it for equipment, in any type of order is what I'm looking to do with that. Any other questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did we approve this when he did so the pheasant farm is on the other side of the road, and we approved the crossing of the stream, the improvement to the road to
Yes.
the pheasant farm?
Yes.
To this
Correct.
property. Thanks for the clarification.
Yep. Yes.
Go ahead.
You've just said that the farm crossing is not in good shape,
No, it is not.
and you detailed reasons why it would be difficult to repair.
Mhm.
When it is unusable, will you be then using your driveway area for your farm equipment, or what is your intention with that?
At that point in time, I would have to come and get approval to get it repaired. It's in good shape, but it's just very old.
So if you were going to have to do that in the future, why not do that now?
Because I would like to use this to access the rear of my property and not have heavy machinery going down my driveway.
Right, but you could still use that. You could upgrade it now and do both things. Your rationale for not doing it is that it would be difficult, but now you're saying in the future you're going to have to do that anyway.
If I were to, yes. If I were to.
So you don't think you will?
I think once it's done being used, I'd make that decision at that time. But it has a lot of years left in it. It's just not in the greatest shape.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
I did want to note my staff report for the record, as well as the minutes of the Conservation Commission meeting that also speak to this application. They're June 16th, 2021 minutes.
Okay.
And, Mr. July's communication of July 2nd, 2021.
Ken?
Mr. Cardinal, would you describe again the current condition of the wetlands crossing that you're planning?
Right here?
Yeah.
So there is already a pipe in place, and it was used previously by Stearns Farm to cross to access this field right here.
Okay, so there's already an existing
Correct.
crossing of a wetlands.
Yes, there is.
All right. What condition are those pipes in right now?
Those are in good condition.
Mr. Ron, I would describe them as like new.
Okay.
Yeah, Vera and I were there on the field trip, and they was in good condition. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. So now it's open for any public comment there might be. Starting with anyone who would be in favor. Followed by anyone who's opposed. I think, is there any reason to keep this public hearing open? Okay. She moved to close the public hearing.
Yeah, she needs to say, yeah.
You need to turn your mic on. We'll get used to this.
Sorry, it was a faint green. I move to close the public hearing.
Moved by Ward. Second by Cotton. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. The public hearing is closed. At, yes, 6:47. Okay, so now we go to old business, and the old business would start off with the property on Pleasant Valley Road. Any discussion about this application? Do we have a proposed motion?
I did
Okay.
prepare a motion. If
Okay.
I do have 2 changes to that motion, but
Okay.
I will hand that out to you.
Okay. Someone like to put the motion forward? Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
I, Carlita Cotton, move to grant an inland wetlands license pursuant to the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses regulations of the town of Mansville to R. Cardinal for a single-family dwelling, on-site septic system, and drinking water well, and a driveway with a wetland crossing on property located on the north side of Pleasant Valley Road, immediately east of 149-155 Pleasant Valley Road, Assessor's Parcel ID 36.88.90. This action is based on a finding of no anticipated significant impact on the wetlands and is conditioned on the following provisions being met. 1. Appropriate erosion and sedimentation controls shall be in place prior to construction, maintained during construction, and removed when disturbed areas are completely stabilized. 2. Incorporate the recommendations of the Mansville Assistant Town Engineer into the project plans. 3. Create a 10-foot wide vegetated buffer on either side of the driveway. The plan should be revised to show this modification. The plans should be approved by the wetland agent prior to commencing work. 4. The applicant or his agent should schedule an inspection of the site with planning and development staff prior to commencing work. In addition, the applicant or his agent should inspect the erosion and sedimentation controls on the site before any predicted rain event and immediately after any rain event greater than 0.25 inches to ensure the erosion and sedimentation controls are in place. If the erosion and sedimentation controls have been compromised, they should be replaced immediately and the inland wetland agent should be notified. 5. The applicant shall submit a native wetland planting plan prepared by a certified soil scientist to protect the palustrin scrub shrub wetland that is delineated on the eastern property boundary. This approval is valid for 5 years until July 6, 2026, unless additional time is requested by the applicant and granted by the Inland Wetlands Agency, and is contingent upon all other state and federal permit requirements being met. The applicant shall notify the wetlands agent before any work begins, and all work shall be completed within 1 year. Any extension of the activity period shall come before this agency for further review and comment.
Thank you. Moved by Cotton,
Second.
second by Plant. Yes.
I just have a few suggestions that that were not included in my item 2 on the draft motion is not relevant because the assistant town engineer's comments were already incorporated. And then where it says should, for the motion it should say shall. I incorporated my my recommendations in my staff memo, and so for a motion it would be appropriate for for it to be stated as shall. So I can, if that works.
Are those changes acceptable? Okay.
Okay.
The second as well. Okay. Very good. Any discussion? All in favor? Raise your hand. Passed unanimous. Okay. Next we have an application for a driveway culvert improvement.
Okay, so this is a driveway, a request for a culvert improvement off of Bassett's Bridge Road. We did have the field trip, and a couple of the members were there. The applicant is constructing a single-family dwelling and associated amenities. The majority of the work will be outside of the upland review area. There was an existing driveway, and the applicant needs to make repairs within the water course. So this is a very minor repair. However, it does not meet the guidelines for me to approve this as an agent. So it's coming before you. Mr. Rivera is here, the homeowner, to answer any questions, but I did prepare a motion for you, and I did hand that out to you. It should be in, Carlita seems to have it, yep.
Any questions for the homeowner?
Recall that it bordered where this culvert improvement was being made. It was going right border on the Army Corps of Engineers, and they had reviewed this and I thought they had reviewed this.
They were notified of this, and Mr. Rivera is here. I did not hear anything from them, but they, per the application requirements, they have to receive notice, and I do have documentation that they were notified.
Okay, because they're so fussy, I wouldn't want to run into them. I thought it was okay, but I just wasn't sure whether.
Ultimately, I think that would be between Mr. Rivera and the Army Corps, but.
Okay, so someone like to put that motion forward? Okay.
I move to grant inland wetlands license pursuant to the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses regulations of the town of Mansfield to M. Rivera, file W1622, for driveway culvert improvements associated with a new single-family dwelling on property located on the south side of Bassett's Bridge Road, immediately east of 420 Bassett's Bridge Road, Assessor's Parcel ID 30.120.4-2. As shown on plans dated March 10, 2021, and as described in application submissions. This action is based on a finding that there will be no significant impact to the wetlands and watercourses, and is conditioned on the following provisions being met. 1. Appropriate erosion and sedimentation controls as shown on the plans shall be in place prior to construction, maintained during construction, and removed when disturbed areas are completely stabilized. Stockpiled material adjacent to the proposed watercourse shall be distributed at least 50 feet from the edge of wetlands and watercourses, seeded and stabilized. This approval is valid through July 6, 2026. The applicant shall notify the wetlands agent before any work begins, and all work shall be completed within 1 year. Any extension of the activity period shall come before this agency for further review and comment.
Moved by Ward. Second by Cooley. Any discussion? All in favor? Passes unanimously. Okay, so we have some new business. We're cutting some timber
Yes.
off of Moulton Road.
That's correct. We have Mr. Burrows from Hull Forest Products is requesting a jurisdictional ruling to conduct a timber harvest on approximately 12 acres. There will be a temporary wetland crossing as a result of that. I have prepared a motion for you. I do believe that it is a permitted as of right activity pursuant to section 4.1 of the regulations. And if you agree, I have a motion ready. Otherwise, you would receive it as an application.
Okay, so the only reason it's coming to us is because it's crossing the wetland.
Correct. And because of that, only the agency could determine its jurisdictions.
Okay.
And so you have to determine that this is permitted as of right. I cannot do that as the agent.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yeah.
This is being described as a temporary crossing.
Yes.
what will happen after the timber harvest has taken place? Will it be taken apart? Will it simply be allowed to?
We have Mr. Burrows from Whole Forest Products here, and he would be happy to answer that. Mr. Burrows, just make sure you speak into the mic. Thank you.
How are we doing tonight? My name is Austin Burrows. I'm a licensed forester here in the state of Connecticut. I work for Whole Forest Products out of Pomfret. So, as mentioned, it will be a small conservative harvest over Moulton Road. There is going to be, it's actually more of a drainage crossing on the edge of a wetland. And essentially, we'll use corduroy or skid mat or whatever needs to be there. Preferably, we'd go in when the weather is nice and dry, no water flow. I did go mid-spring to look at the lot, and there wasn't not much for flow in the drainage, but as an added protection, we'll be doing that. When the harvest is completed, we'll be taking everything out and restoring the crossing to its prior.
My question's answered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would someone like to read the motion?
I move to approve a finding that the proposed timber harvest and associated wetland crossing IWA file J26 on land located at 55 Moulton Road, assessor parcel ID 9.24.39, file number J-26, owned by James and Patricia Rayner and the Patricia Rayner Living Trust, is shown on a map dated May 2021 and described in the associated attachments, is permitted as of the right pursuant to section 4.1 of the Mansfield Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Regulations.
Moved by Ward. Second by DeVivo. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. I think that's inland wetlands. Anything else? Inland wetlands?
That's it.
Short and sweet. We are adjourned at 7 p.m. Okay, shifting gears. Will I call the Planning and Zoning Commission July 6, 2021 meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. Members present are Aho, Accorsi, Cooley, Cotton, Plant, Ron, Ward, and sorry. I keep missing you because you're not on my list. I better put you on my list. I had you as an alternative. I got to get a new list. Yes. Okay. Members present: Aho, Corsi, Cooley, Cotton, Frattoni, Plant, Ron, Ward, and alternative DeVivo, who is seated for absent member Chandy. All right. We have minutes from June 21st.
I've reviewed them, and I move that we accept them as presented.
Okay. Moved by Ward.
And Mr. Chair, just to clarify, that was as presented.
As presented. All in favor? That's unanimously. Special meeting. Yes, that was the one I didn't attend. We have minutes for that to approve, right?
We do. Those, I apologize. Those were only uploaded very late this afternoon, early this evening. They were not ready at the time the packet was produced. So if you want to hold off on
okay, so we should approve it next time.
You can approve it at your next meeting if you'd prefer,
Okay.
so you have time to review that.
Okay.
That's for your joint meeting with the town council.
Right. All right. Do we have anything from the zoning agent?
As this is the first meeting of the month, her report is typically at your second meeting, but if
Okay.
anyone has any comments or questions for her, we will let her know and take them back to her.
Okay. Any comments to take back? Okay. We have a public hearing with regard to Haven Communities. I open the public hearing at 7:03 p.m. Members present, see if I can get this straight now. Members present are Ahua Corsi Ahua Corsi, Cooley, Cotton, Fatoni, Plant, Ron, Ward, and alternate DeVivo. And Linda, could you read the boilerplate for us?
I'd be happy to. First, the guidelines for this evening's public hearing. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to receive relevant information about the proposed application from the public. Order and decorum shall be maintained at all times during the hearings. The Commission reserves the right to adjourn the hearing to another date and time if the discussion becomes unruly and unmanageable. The order of presentations this evening will be the applicant and then public comment. Public comment will be taken in the order of support, opposition, and last undetermined or request for additional information. When addressing the Commission, please state your name and address and any party, group, or organization you represent, if any, for the record before beginning your comments. Limit your comments to the subject of the public hearing. Avoid repetition where possible. Summarize reports and letters that are submitted to the Commission rather than reading them aloud, as all written information is copied and distributed to members. Direct all questions and comments to the Chair. Do not attempt to engage in dialogue with members of the Commission, staff, or any other parties to the hearing. Speak clearly to ensure your comments are audible to members of the public watching from home and are recorded. Commission members may ask questions of anyone providing testimony, but will not discuss the relative merits of the application until the hearing is closed. Failure to abide by these policies and procedures may result in dismissal from the hearing. I would also like to note, I'm first going to read the public hearing notice that was published in the Chronicle on June 24th, 2021, and on July 7th, 2020. July 2nd. Thank you, Jennifer. Apparently we had a typo. Thursday, July 2nd. Thank you. Zoom in on that. The Mansfield Planning and Zoning Commission will hold the following public hearing on Tuesday, July 6, 2021, in the Council Chamber AP Beck Building, 4 South Eagleville Road, Mansfield, Connecticut, to hear comments regarding the following application. At 6:40 p.m., special permit application of Haven Communities LLC, applicant, KRCL LLC, and E&I Associates LLC, owners, for a mixed-use project including 399 residential units and approximately 15,000 square feet of commercial space on 3 parcels located at 1717, 1733, and 1753 Storrs Road. Assessor's parcel IDs 8.15.10, 8.15.9, and 8.15.8 respectively. And an adjacent vacant parcel, Assessor's parcel ID 8.15.9-1, PZC file number 1372. The application includes requests for the following: density bonus of 8 dwelling units per acre / 15 bedrooms per acre per Article 10, Section B.5.d. Density bonus of 5 dwelling units per acre, Article 10, Section W.7. And a reduction in minimum parking requirements, Article 10, Section D.7.c. No information from the public shall be received after the close of the public hearing. Additional information regarding this application is available in the Planning Office. Paul Aho, Chair, Banu Chandy, Secretary.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just to note, you will see in the packet you have many items under this application. It's a rather large application. What I will note for the record is anything that was received since the agenda was published, and those are denoted with an asterisk before each item. I also note that anything that you are receiving at tonight's meeting has a number 4 in parentheses before it. So items that were added to the packet after the publication of the agenda, an agenda packet, include Connecticut Water Company communication regarding water feasibility that is dated May 13th, 2021. For the record, that was submitted via email this afternoon. You have also received communications from the following members of the public, and I apologize if I get any of these names mispronounced. Lois Demerjian, July 3rd, 2021. Aaron Reichling, July 6th, 2021. Marianne Buck, July 6th, 2021. And Todd Friedland, July 6th, 2021. And I believe that is it. Everything else was included in the original agenda packet. You do have a memo from me, which is dated July 2nd, 2021. I will note that is not a full staff review. You will see in that memo that we are recommending that this hearing be open this evening for the purpose of an initial presentation from the applicant, as well as starting the process of taking public comment. However, that once we have done that you continue this hearing to another date and time, as the applicant is still working through technical comments, and you do have some technical comments from myself, as well as the consultants that the commission has hired, Weston and Sampson, as well as Landtech.
Okay. So the applicant or
Thanks, Mr.
representative
Chairman.
can
For the
speak. Go
record,
ahead.
my name is John Nuff. I'm an attorney with an office at 147 Broad Street in Milford, Connecticut, and I'm happy to be here tonight on behalf of Haven Communities, which is the contract purchaser of the subject properties. I assume you can all follow along on your laptops, and the public is going to be looking at the screen, but
Yes, and Mr. Knopf, I do want to note that was the other addition. I knew I'd missed something. It was your presentation for this evening was also added to the packet after its initial publication.
terrific, thank you. Before we begin, I just wanted to extend our thanks to Linda and Jennifer for their really wonderful organization and availability, including Linda returning phone calls on her vacation, so we apologize for that, but we're deeply appreciative for all their assistance. So Haven Communities is the national developer of multi-family, student housing, and mixed-use development. They are focused on creating design communities in highly desirable locations with a commitment to unmatched living experience for our residents. I think as we work our way through the presentation this evening, I think you'll be similarly impressed by the level of detail and the really wonderful qualities that this project is proposing. Oh, I was hoping I was going to be loud enough that the mic could be sit down. So, are we okay?
No, you are going to have to hold the mic and speak into it. I apologize.
Okay, no, it's fine.
We apparently are missing our always public
Okay.
microphone from that table.
So this is the team that's going to be presenting this evening. Obviously, I'm John Nuff. I'm here with my colleague Sarah Sharp. Our civil engineer is Jeff Ward from Bowler Engineering. Our landscape architect is Leslie Thanger from Bowler. Our architect is Steve Moriak from Dwell Design Studio. And our traffic engineer is Aaron Fredette from McMahon Engineering. We have been through a number of committees and commissions in your town, including this body, and both as a planning and zoning body as well as an inland wetland commission. As you know, you approved our wetland application in February this year. Just about a month ago, you approved our zone map amendment application from flood hazard to PB3 for a portion of the properties. We have been before Parks and Natural Resources, Economic Development, Conservation, Design Review, and Traffic Authority. We've gotten positive recommendations or positive comments in those settings where there wasn't a quorum from each of these commissions. We are working through some things on the Traffic Authority, but for everyone else, we have gotten either positive referrals or very positive comments. So while this commission, is very familiar with the property from the inland wetland application and the zone change application, we understand that this is your first opportunity to look at this from a zoning perspective. And so what we want to do tonight is give you a very thorough overview from all the design criteria specialists. So we're going to be talking about the site design, engineering, landscape architecture, and traffic. And then we'll be exploring further details and responding to the various staff comments at a subsequent hearing. So very briefly, obviously the subject property is 23 acres across 4 different parcels with frontage on Storrs Road. The addresses are listed there, and obviously Linda just read those. The zoning district is PB3 primarily, with a portion designated in the flood hazard zone. As I indicated, you have changed the zone map last month. Our proposed use is a mixed-use project permitted subject to special permit approval in the PB3 zone. Development details. Haven Four Corners is a multifamily residential and retail development comprised of 7 buildings and structured parking. There's a mix of residential units ranging from a studio to 3-bedroom units for a total of 398 units. And there's also commercial space and retail space in the ground floor of 3 of the buildings, approximately 15,000 square feet. That 15,000 square feet can be utilized in a variety of manners. Obviously, we have not begun speaking to tenants. We have a long ways to go, but we anticipate, certainly retail and other services that will be service not only our own tenants, but residents of the town of Mansfield, and certainly things like bank, coffee shop, hair salon, personal service, office, things of that nature would be occupying that 15,000 square feet. As you know from our prior applications before this body, these are the subject parcels. There's 3 primary parcels ranging from east to west, and there's a small triangular portion which does not have an address, which obviously was the reason why we needed to withdraw our first wetland application and resubmit so we can include that triangular piece. But the important thing to know from this is that, as you'll be seeing, we are staying entirely within the existing development envelope. Before we start talking too much about the application itself, we just want to sort of set the stage with regard to your plan of conservation development and your regulations. Because your POCD lays out a very clear vision of what the town's desire is for new developments, where it should be located, how to lay the groundwork in terms of infrastructure, why you want to have this type of development in terms of other positive impacts, and also you're very specific about appearance and aesthetics. So we just want to talk about those things for a few minutes before we get into the details of the project itself. So this property has been part of the Four Corners area and has been designated as a priority mixed-use development since at least 2006. The town has been actively working to address water and sewer needs in order to facilitate a mixed-use development in the Four Corners area since the early 2000s. And it certainly makes sense because, this road, the term gateway into a town is wildly overused. I think in this case it's entirely appropriate. This site is indeed a gateway both into the town and a gateway to the university, and certainly can help create a sense of arrival. As I've been saying in other venues, it's not so hard to imagine a high school junior, senior coming to visit UConn and driving down the street and seeing this type of development that you'll hear more about in a few minutes, and really getting a sense of excitement before actually arriving at the university. So we think this is a tremendous augmentation to the town as well as UConn itself. And then moving ahead from the 2006 POCD to the 2015, same theme repeated the same theme was repeated in 2015 as in 2006. The 2015 future land use map designates the Four Corners area as a mixed-use center, and mixed-use centers are defined as areas specifically designated for higher density residential uses and mixed-use projects. I think it bears quoting, as the highest and most intensive mixed-use areas in Mansfield, mixed-use centers are capable of absorbing a significant number of new housing units within a compact, walkable environment. That's specifically what we're proposing this evening. In fulfillment of the POCD, the town recently completed infrastructure upgrades in the Four Corners area that are necessary to support redevelopment and revitalization plans first envisioned in 2006. Obviously, you have the public water extension complete in 2017 and the sewer system in 2020. The town also recently updated zoning regulations to allow for a mixture of multifamily housing and commercial uses in the Four Corners area. And in October 2020, new requirements for multifamily housing was added, including rigorous standards related to project design and residential density. And if you even just look at the intent of the regulations in the PB3 zone, I think it bears quoting. It says, due in part to the lack of public sewer and water services, many properties in this area have deteriorated over the past few decades, and a number of businesses have closed. Consistent with Mansfield's plan of conservation and development, it is the town's objective to revitalize the Four Corners area, and town officials are working to address existing infrastructure needs. So you've certainly done that. And so our goal, together with the town, is to revitalize the Four Corners area. So we have taken your regulations and your 2006 POCD and your 2015 POCD really as an invitation to partner with the town to help execute and bring to realization the town's vision for this area, including your very, very high design standards. And I think this type of project, as I'm sure you've been hearing from recent events, is more vital now than ever before. There's other provisions in your POC with which this project is consistent. Goal 8.1, Strategy C, is to focus efforts to expand off-campus undergraduate housing in mixed-use centers and locations in compact residential areas that are close to UConn's core campus to reduce impacts on established neighborhoods, and create a Mansfield Affordable Housing Trust to receive funds such as grants or payments made in lieu of producing affordable housing units. And what we are proposing is consistent with both of these provisions in your POCD. Your POCD also provides aesthetic and architectural standards geared to creating a true sense of place. And that's exactly what people of all walks of life and all ages really yearn for. Whether you're a student, whether you are a professor, or just a local resident, I think we all want a sense of place to create a walkable, livable, sort of a new urbanist environment, and we'll be discussing that in some detail. But your POCD lays out the framework to help bring that to realization. So our proposed design embodies the design principles outlined in your POCD, including pushing buildings out to the street, locating parking behind those buildings, human scale lighting. I'm really excited when our landscape architect, Leslie Fanger, can get before you, because some of the things that she'll be describing are really, really wonderful, and I think you'll be very impressed. In addition to creating a sense of place and a sense of arrival in the town, there's also tax benefits. Currently, these properties pay a total of $55,000 a year in taxes. The fair market value upon completion is going to be quite substantial, approximately $60 million. And our local property taxes would be approaching $2 million a year. We are not accounting for the all the other personal property taxes that would be paid by those living in the units in terms of cars and obviously with in the businesses as well. In additional fees, we're estimating over $1.6 million in development impact fees, utility connections, permitting fees, and obviously Haven is employing local engineering, consulting, and yes, legal firms. Other economic benefits. An estimated 375 direct construction jobs will be generated and sustained, with an additional estimated 180 induced and indirect construction jobs over the course of construction. Approximately 16 to 18 permanent direct management jobs, with another 25 plus induced jobs, and then the commercial may have as many as 50 combined part-time and full-time. So switching gears from the POCD and the other benefits to be derived from the project, here is our proposed site plan. And I think at this point we're going to bring Jeff Board, our professional engineer from Boulder Engineering, to walk you through the site plan.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jeff Board. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Connecticut with Bowler, located at 65 LaSalle Road in West Hartford, Connecticut. And what you're looking at here on screen is basically a colorized version of the site plan that's within your packages with the landscaping turned on. As we work through some of the town comments received, I think the next submission, you'll see some more landscaping shown on this colorized plan here. But just to orient you guys again, as John alluded to, there's 7 buildings, mixed-use development, residential component consisting of 398 units. On this, for the purposes of this presentation, north will be to the top of page. Starting all the way to the west, the furthest left building is building 1000, consisting of 3-story residential with a 16,570 square foot footprint. Working to the east, you have building 2000, which is a 3-story residential. I guess I could be circling these for you guys. So that's 2000. Building 3000 is a 4-story retail and residential with a 12,905 square foot footprint. Building 4000 is a 4-story residential with leasing and amenity space located right here. And you can see the pool and some of the hardscaping that and amenity spaces that Leslie will be describing later in the presentation. Continuing to the east, you have building 5000, which is a 4-story retail residential consisting of 17,885 square feet. We have a boulevard entrance in between these 2 buildings, flanked on the other side by building 6000, which is a 4-story retail and residential, which is a 15,570 square foot footprint. And then in the rear, on the southeast corner, we have a 4-story residential building wrapping a 5-story parking deck to the rear here. So one of the big things that came up during inland wetlands and was trying to reduce the amount of on-surface parking. I think under the original and existing site conditions, there's quite a bit more surface parking than what we're actually proposing on this plan. So all throughout the process, we've been about 200 spaces on surface. This application before you this evening has 212 surface spaces, and then the majority of the remaining spaces, 452, are in the parking structure itself, wrapped by that building 7000. So there are certain parking reduction credits that we are taking and we'll describe in better detail upon our next submission. But some of those reductions include transit, bicycle parking, and then the affordable housing reduction. So we are looking for a 25% reduction, and again, we will have that spelled out a bit clearer on our zoning chart during our next submission here. I did mention the bicycle parking. I know that was a big thing that came up. The regulations require for a development of this size that there be 448 bicycle parking spaces throughout the development, and we took that very seriously. And what we did throughout the process was, for building 1000, there's 48 bicycle storage spaces in a covered structure just outside the building. That's the only area on site that there's an exterior bike parking, basically. All of the other buildings, they had adjusted unit counts and reworked the insides of the buildings to accommodate the appropriate number for each building. So when you look at the square footage and the requirements for each of these buildings, they all meet or exceed the requirement required from a bicycle parking standpoint. There had been discussions on this plan, the lack of bicycle parking for some of the retail spaces, and I know for the future submission, we're going to be looking at putting in some smaller bicycle racks for public as well, whereas all those 448 I described are all for residents of these buildings. There's 2 existing two proposed curb cuts on site, both full access. One of the benefits of a redevelopment of this size is the fact that there are currently 3, and you can almost see it here, 3 existing curb cuts. And I know when we go to DOT, any opportunity we can take to close up an existing curb cut is well received by the DOT. So basically we're maintaining the 2 existing curb cuts for our proposed driveway entrances, which are both full access. We have gone through and run vehicular turning templates through the site. With the Mansfield fire truck that we received, we custom built that in our turning software, along with the recycling and refuse truck, which we had provided turning templates as part of the site plan documents as well. And again, given this is a redevelopment, I think there were a lot of benefits to what I'm about to describe with regards to stormwater quality and just the cleaning up of the wetlands. I know we had gone through extensive review and several meetings where, you know, the plantings over here were rather robust in nature as we went through the process with removing the invasive species along the perimeter and then supplementing it with native species on that back end. So we took a great care into kind of working with you guys during that process. I'm going to appreciate all the feedback that we got. With that, I will switch to the grading and drainage plan. Although not as exciting as what Leslie will present to you momentarily, I do want to get some of these things on the record. The majority of our systems remain unchanged from what we presented at Inland Wetlands. We are proposing several best management practices, and it's rare on a site of this size that we're able to do that in a multitude of ways. We were able to do that subsurface, which you see in the dark blue, and then what you see in the light blue are several rain gardens, sediment traps, sediment forebays, swales. Basically, the majority of the BMPs listed in the 2004 Connecticut Water Quality Manual, we were able to implement on this site. And when you look what's out there today, basically, and it's hard to see, there's a paved leak off on Stores Road right in this location immediately adjacent to that driveway. And then there's a paved channel that basically right now is taking all of that untreated stormwater runoff from the road and discharging it directly into this high quality or high performing wetland on the side here. So what we're doing is actually capturing that water, specifically in this location, and bringing it all the way around through a vegetated grass swale with check dams. And all that water goes through a series of, I guess, checks and balances, if you will, where it's coming into a forebay here, and then there's another swale coming down with check dams ultimately back here. So belts and suspenders on all of the design, and we're happy to say that, you know, upon completion of this project, the water quality is going to be greatly improved to these wetlands. So not only that, we did prepare an erosion and sediment control plan, which complies with the 2002 erosion and sediment control guidelines, and part of our typical stormwater management process, which is also in your guys' packets, would be, and it sometimes gets buried in the stormwater report, which is hundreds of pages, but there's an operations and maintenance manual, which on something this complex becomes rather important with regards to the maintenance and upkeep of all of these best management practices. And one of the neat things about a project of this size is the sense that we have to apply to the DEP for a stormwater general permit once construction begins. And basically what that entails is me as the licensed engineer coming out on a frequent basis to basically, you know, make sure that all of the erosion and sediment control practices are in place. So silt fence is up. We have to submit weekly reports. After certain rainfall events, we have to be on site. So my stamp goes on that document, and basically it'll be through the entirety of construction. We'll be there to ensure that everything was installed in accordance to the plans that are before you this evening. There are several other, I mentioned rain gardens. We have in between some of the buildings here, and they're going to be planted with a special mix that Leslie can talk more into here. And again, we were treating some of the detention as when you have a development like this with wetlands on all sides, you want to try to mimic existing drainage patterns best you can. So in our instance, we had 3 drainage areas in existing conditions, one center, one east, one west. And what we did was we mimicked those drainage patterns, and then we reduced peak flows off in all 3 instances, trying best to match them. And then we also reduced net volume for the entire property. So all in all, it had gone through pretty extensive review, and one of the benefits of permitting anything in the town of Mansfield here is the fact that you guys do bring on a third-party review engineer who worked with us for 8 months to fine-tune this and kind of work through multiple iterations. And we feel now, after all the testing we've done in the field, incorporating a lot of the comments received, that the plan you're looking at this evening is going to be a good plan to put in place upon completion of this project. And with that, I wanted to introduce another big benefit that came up, and I think it was a comment received from the Inland Wetlands Commission as we went through the process here. But basically, what has evolved here is the property is much larger than the development footprint that we're currently taking credit for. So what's shaded in blue is a 12.1 acre swath of land that we're dedicating to the town as a conservation easement where no development would take place. And that area got extended out even into an area over here to the west. So that was a major benefit. I know it was not on our original submissions to the town. We feel it's an added benefit, and it'll go to serve the town for years to come as we move forward here. And I think ultimately that equates to more than 50% of the development. So I think it was 52%, 53% will be dedicated back to the town as this conservation easement. So we felt that was an added bonus. And with that, I'll turn it over to Leslie Fanger of Bowler to discuss the landscaping in a bit more detail here.
Good evening, Leslie Fanger. I'm the project landscape architect from Bowler. I am really thrilled to go through some of the amenities that Haven is proposing. They're very committed to making sure that the residents and the community has all sorts of things to do and in and around where they live. Some of the community amenities that will be offered to the public as part of this development include what we're calling the boulevard. It's just the retail corridor. It's the mixed use aspect of this project. There'll be ground level retail stores. People can walk along a double lane entrance and access all of the amenities and retail shops along the boulevard. And that leads you into the deeper part of the project. In addition to that, there'll be Park on Stores, which is a little parklet that is also going to be open to the public as well as the residents. There's linear park that people can migrate through if they want to access some of the open space that Jeff just described. Also a dog park that will also be open to the public, and access to the conservation area. Let's see, I guess I have to figure out how to, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to go from west to east along Storrs Road and go through some of the public amenities first. So on the western part of the site is the dog park, and that will include synthetic turf. It's called canine turf. It's very friendly to dogs. It's easier to clean up. You can just wipe it off with a hose. There'll be the dog watering station and disposal area, and all of these amenities that I'll describe are all connected through a series of walkways and sidewalks that run along Storrs Drive and all through the development. You can see these are the walkways here. So this dog park is also accessed via an accessible ramp. The grade changes were such that we needed to install a ramp, so that's there. I'd also have like a double entrance so that you can get your dog under control before they enter into the park, or take the leash off and let them go, and then conversely, as they leave, put the leash back on, go back out. So then as you walk along Storrs Road, there's a fairly large open area, and that also is a sewer easement. I understand from some of the comments that there's a desire to add landscaping and streetscape along Storrs Road. So we're looking into that, but some of the trees will need to be perhaps more ornamental in nature so that they don't get too large and interfere with the sewer line. So the next sort of public space that we come to would be between buildings 1,000 and 2,000. And I wonder if I can zoom in on actually, I'll show you this in more detail as we go. I'm just giving you sort of a broad overview of where things are with relation to each of the buildings, and then I'll dive in a little deeper and show you a blow up of these areas. So let's see. And as we continue moving east along Storrs Road, the next amenity area is what we're calling the Park on Stores. And again, I'll show you that in more detail, but it really is a nice asset for the community. It's porous. People can come in and out as they please. There's a lot of neat little features that are within the park that I'll describe in a minute. And then the last section, public space, is the boulevard that I kind of told you a little bit about before. This line here is actually the route that emergency vehicles and or buses could take through the site. It just was left on inadvertently, so if that's confusing people, that's why. And then as we move into the site, there's a roundabout that will have some sort of a focal feature that really is a nice entrance into or a foreground into the sort of more town square type of element that's on the building itself, and the architect will explain that. These really do have a lot of the new urbanist feelings where you have a nice tight community, lots of amenities. You don't see the parking from the road, and let's see, go back down here for a sec. There we go. All right, so the first blow up on the left is of the linear park, and the linear park has a walkway that connects from Stores Road. There's a walkway here and cuts through this sort of nice space that the positioning of the buildings creates. And people who live in these two buildings can enter into, it's a paved area. It's got little seating benches. You can see some of the representative images down below. So if they're coming out and just wanting to get together with their neighbors, they can sit and chat. It's sort of a place where people can intersect and really get to know each other, build a sense of community. And then some of the other amenities along here, these little spaces here are little breakout spots where there's a swinging bench, and people can go and take their grandkids outside and swing on the bench with them, or just read a book and relax. There's also some fire pits that are located along the walkway. So again, we're really focused on creating a sense of community and giving people and the residents of Mansfield the opportunity to interact with people who live here and with each other. Some of these representative images are what I was talking about. It's a little swing bench with a pergola, fire pits. We've got some really cool paving patterns that really help to liven up the walkways and the open areas that are paved. So as we move towards the right-hand side, behind building, I think it's 4,000, this is where the amenity space for residents, this would be the only private area, and mainly because you really need to fence in this area and have controlled access because of the pool area and safety and insurance reasons. But within this space, there's just lots of things to do. There's an outdoor kitchen. People can come out and grill their burgers and have a beer with their neighbor. Play bocce ball in little green space that's located here. There's a nice big patio area where you can sit and have a cocktail or just read a book, have your meal. As you move over to the pool area, there's lots of outdoor seating, a fire pit with a pergola on it, and the pool is really going to be spectacular. And I think we really get a sense of the quality that Haven has already shown in this image below, which was a inspiration for the pool here. And in this instance, Haven really wanted to make sure that this was a year-round asset that all the residents could enjoy. So because of that, we're including 3 hot tubs. So people are sure to be outside year-round enjoying the warm water. And then there's just little lounge chairs. You can see there'll be pergolas, and a big jumbotron will be installed on a retaining wall with a nice green space, movable furniture, nice big funky kind of furniture that is comfortable and pleasant. Then as we move toward the east, this is the park on Stores. It has a large green area, lawn, lots of trees. As you move through the treed section, there will be little swings that people can just go and hang out on, kids can play on. It's something that's just kind of pulls your eye into the space and also provides some sort of activity for, doesn't matter whether you're young or old, people will be attracted to these little disc swings. There's also an outdoor workstation, so especially after COVID, I think everyone's realizing that there's a real desire to work from home, and this outdoor workspace will be fully Wi-Fi. Will have Wi-Fi, and people can just bring their Surface outside and do work and feel like they're not stuck in their house the whole time. And when they are done working, they can just walk over to the hammock yard, which will be next to this rain garden area. And each of the rain gardens will have native plants and be a visual asset rather than just a weed patch. They'll really be beautifully landscaped and maintained as nice garden spaces rather than just grass. Then we have this like little banding of patio space. People can sit, talk, lie in the sun, read a book, and again, it's all open to the public. It's not something that is going to be closed off or just, it'll really have a feel of welcoming to whoever wants to use it. And then the boulevard area, the retail space, you drive in this direction, you hit the boulevard, and drive out in this direction. The walkways are all going to be lined with decorative pavement and trees on both sides and in the center. The center will also be stormwater management feature. And then as you approach the roundabout, there'll be paving that will complement the round nature of the roundabout and have some sort of a focal feature. At this point, we're thinking maybe something that has some water moving or kinetic sculpture of some sort. Haven't quite figured that out yet. And then within the areas in between where there's rain gardens, they're not just rain gardens, they're going to be an actual gathering place that sort of a unique feature would be this gabion seating wall that is a pervious type of material, and on the inside of the gabion wall will be a rain garden. And I think that this does an excellent job of showing you sort of the overall feel of open space. The community has really got two different sections to it with a large open area in between. And this gives you a very nice feel for sort of the aesthetics along Stores Road. And with that, I'll hand it over to the architect.
Our next presenter is Steve Moriak.
Good evening, Stephen Moriak, Dwell Design Studio, 8200 Greensboro Drive, McLean, Virginia. This image shows the porosity of the neighborhood that allows pedestrians to move around the building. It also shows that there's a mixture of different scales and shapes of the buildings. Some are 3 stories, some are 4 stories, one is 5 stories. It shows the neighborhood sort of park area out front on the street that the kids can go play out and exercise with. For that one. The elevations of these buildings are broken down into different sort of smaller building facades and different shapes made of masonry materials, cementitious siding, sloped roofs, some dormers, some tower features. This is the commercial entrance with the main boulevard, with the focal point of a clock tower in the background, giving a terminus of when you enter the site. You have something to look at and something that draws you into the site. This is the left side commercial building that has the commercial stores on the street frontage with residential units with balconies above for them. This is the 5-story building that is in the rear of the site. It also has balconies and masonry and siding materials. We appreciate the lots of conversations we had with your team on working on family-friendly units, sizes of units, aspects of unit plans. We've located them all over the site, so they're not all in one local area. And we have a mixture of 1-bedrooms, 2-bedrooms, and 3-bedroom units with all of the family-friendly requirements and sizes of those things. And now on to Aaron in traffic.
Good evening. For the record, Aaron Fredette with McMahon Associates, the traffic engineers on the project. So we conducted a full traffic impact study for the project, which was submitted in April of this year. Oops. And I'm just going to give a quick overview, but of course can go into any additional detail or answer any questions. But our study area included the intersections of Storrs Road with Middle Turnpike, Willington Hill Road, and then the 2 proposed project site driveways. We looked at the weekday morning and weekday afternoon peak hours, which are the times that we would anticipate this development to generate the most traffic. We conducted peak period turning movement counts in March of 2021, but we did have some historic data, which was from before COVID, which allowed us to increase those traffic volumes to make them more representative of more typical peak hour times. We also conducted crash analysis at the existing study area intersections, and we also looked at traffic into the future, which includes just general growth in population in the area, as well as other developments that have been identified. We then look at our own development and estimate the number of trips associated with the development, and we break it out for this particular project into residential trips and retail trips because they do act in slightly different manners. And we distributed those trips onto the study area roadways, looking at existing travel patterns as well as journey to work data from the U.S. Census Bureau, which tells us where people live, where they work, and helps us identify those travel patterns. Once we know how many trips are associated with our development and where they're going, we conduct capacity analysis to understand how the adjacent roadways and intersections are operating and how this development would change that. So very briefly, the project is shown to have a very limited impact on the study area intersections. We're seeing very small increases in delay at the signalized intersections of 1 to 2 seconds during those peak hours. And the project site driveways are shown to operate at what we call level of service D or better, which in built-up areas like this is generally considered acceptable. They also operate well under capacity. That means that there's plenty of opportunity for those vehicles to be able to enter onto the main line without excessive delay or queuing. We also evaluated the sight lines at each of the project site driveways to ensure that vehicles entering and exiting the site can see each other, especially given some of the speeds along Stores Road, which we recognize are a little bit higher than what the posted speed limit is. And the sight lines with some minor landscaping work along Stores Road are shown to meet the Connecticut DOT requirements for the operating speeds on Stores Road. We are in receipt of the comments from Weston and Sampson, which we are currently working through. We will be revising our analysis and report to reflect those comments and providing written responses to those comments. At this point, given the comments, which generally are asking us to look at some of the transit credits depending on what kind of transit is going to be servicing the site, or updating our analysis based on some additional information we've received from Connecticut DOT. At this time, I don't anticipate any significant changes to those findings, but of course we'll revise our analysis and provide it back to you and Weston and Sampson for review. And then should the project move forward from the local level, we'll be required to coordinate with Connecticut DOT for any encroachment permits and work within the state right-of-way, as well as OSTA due to the size and location of this project. So with that, I'll turn it back over to John.
Thanks, Aaron. So that concludes our presentation. I hope you enjoyed the overview. As I indicated at the beginning, we understand that we have a fair amount of work to do and to respond to your third-party review, as well as Linda's comments. They're still in their draft form. Obviously, we have the full team here this evening. We will all be here at subsequent hearings, so we're happy to proceed however you deem appropriate, whether it's hearing from the public, maybe getting some initial comments or questions from the commission on the way, but we're here at your disposal.
Okay, thank you. We'll start if there's any questions from the commission. Yeah, go ahead. You're next.
Good evening.
Hi.
I have several questions. My first question is, have you developed anything in New England prior to this?
No, I failed to address earlier that Chase Powell is here representing the representing Haven, and so I don't believe that you have Chase. Have you? No, okay. They have not.
All right, I was curious about that. My next question is, could you talk about your operation and management plan for all these outdoor amenities? The dog park sounds wonderful, but who's cleaning that? What about the runoff from that? Who's taking care of the fire pits? Those kinds of things.
No, so Haven's going to employ their own management company to take care of all those things. Obviously, it's in their best interest to have a very robust maintenance plan, aside and apart from, stormwater management maintenance, but actually, the things that you mentioned, because obviously, everything's going to be really wonderful and spanking new on day one, but they want to ensure that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, as new residents come and go, whether it's new students, new professors, it still looks, fresh and inviting. So, yes, they will have a maintenance team. Typically, it's an outside party who will come and be in charge of all that.
And one further question. In this design, are all of the apartments, do you enter those from an interior corridor? Do any of them have exterior exits on the ground floor?
I believe that we have a variety, right, Steve? Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I had a question about parking. You've got a lot of people coming, that you're offering these amenities to people in the town. Where are they going to park? And do they all have to park in the parking garage? And isn't there going to be a problem with people coming in and taking up spaces in front of the person's apartment? And how are you going to handle that?
No, so we believe very strongly that we have more than adequate parking, not only for our residents, but for the commercial space as well as the amenity space. I mean, while I know that Leslie's presentation makes it sound really wonderful and will be really wonderful, but it's not exactly it's going to be attracting people, as a McDonald's or a large retail store might. I mean, certainly the community is invited, but we believe that there's more than sufficient parking on site. And obviously, people will come and go during the course of the day. For instance, during the daylight hours,
A lot of people will have driven away from the site, whether it's to class or their place of work. That's when visitors might be coming and using that amenity space. And then obviously there'd be the reverse thing happening in the evening as people return back to their apartments and maybe the amenity space is no longer utilized.
Okay.
Yeah, Ken.
These units, are they going to be electrically heated?
Steve?
Will it be electric
Yes.
hot water?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things I noted here as I listened, there's been virtually no effort to use solar collectors in any way to at least provide electricity for the public spaces, for example, the parking garage, or any of the lighting that might be for some of these other amenities. There's no conversation at all about geothermal wells. In short, this is a project that is going to come in and it's going to use energy, correct? Okay.
Yes, it will. It will be using energy,
Certainly.
as they all do. Yes.
Vera.
I think the amenities are showy. I'm not sure they're useful. I think a pool for 400 people or 800 people, however many, is not very practical behind the one building. I wonder about the workstation, how many people can utilize that. So it's. I also wondered about the public being able to come in and sort of just wander about and do their thing with the residents not being able to use these amenities as they would have liked. So maybe it's a good selling point, but I'm not impressed with them. I don't like the parking so close to the wetlands. How many cars? 400 and some cars coming in down very close to the wetlands there. I never did like that one. So I think, and your apartment buildings face onto Storrs Road. How many feet from the road are those apartments?
I think at their closest, and Jeff can correct me if I'm wrong, they're about 20, but
How many?
20 feet from the property line. But keep in mind, your regulations have limits what our setback can be. So we're in compliance with your regulations. And as I indicated at the very beginning, that was the intent. That was the whole new urbanist feel, which is push buildings to the sidewalks, put parking behind, create a streetscape, create that sense of arrival that we've been discussing.
Any ideas for noise abatement?
Noise abatement in terms of from our residents?
From the road, from Storrs Road?
No, I mean, it's a public way, but I don't think it's unusual to have, residential units in close proximity to, a well-utilized, roadway. I mean, we've, lots of places where people love to live are directly adjacent to roadways.
Really?
Sure.
Just from some of our past projects that we've worked on as well, where sorry, my name's Chase Powell, and I'm one of the developers on this project. In some of our past projects we've done where we've fronted busy roads like this, specifically on new urbanist style projects, one of the way we've gotten around and trying to abate the noise, like you're indicating, is through insulation and possibly even thicker windows, double pane windows that kind of front the road there. So, when you walk in one of those units that front the roads, I mean, the noise really is mitigated, and you can really kind of see the difference by just stepping outside on the balconies as opposed to being inside. It really does dampen it.
I saw a lot of amenities that look very compelling, and such as a dog park and outside Wi-Fi, swings and hammocks and fire pits, pool and seating. What I didn't see, and it's probably there, I just didn't see it in the plans thus far, is will you also have the same types of amenities, swings and pool access for the differently abled?
Yeah, so Steve Moriak can also speak on this, but all of our projects that we do have to be ADA compliant. So for pools, for example, it has to have wheelchair accessibility into the pool. So on this project in particular, the most likely solution would be to have a mobile wheelchair lift that will be able to lower the disabled person into either the hot tub or the pool. That's something we've done on numerous other projects as well. So yeah, they'll all be ADA accessible and compliant. It's, you know, a standard that we have to uphold.
Regarding the retail space, are you with the philosophy, I'll build it, they'll come, or are you actually pursuing retailers that would go there?
It's a little bit premature to be pursuing retailers. I mean, 15,000 square feet, I think is going to be another wonderful amenity for the project and for the town, but it's not a tremendous amount of space. I mean, it's a little bit premature to be pursuing retailers at the moment. Typically, they would want to know that you have your approvals at the very least and have a construction schedule. But certainly, Haven is open to, you know, the universe of retail possibilities.
Okay, we can open it up to the public.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the order would be people to who are interested in speaking in favor of the Haven project first. So if anyone would like to speak in favor of the Haven project, they can come forward. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
My name is Marty Hirschhorn. I live with my wife at 63 Davis Road, and I'm in support of the. I'm not. I finished my term. Just a citizen, Jen. But I am definitely in support of the concept, and I would feel with the careful, I'm aware of how you handled the other as a committee. I have full confidence in your ability to take a concept, our concerns, your concerns, and hopefully Haven will listen. I feel this is badly needed for the town. Because the University of Connecticut is afraid of competition for student housing, we have lost millions of dollars in tax revenue. We have lost it in affordable housing. We have hookups that they supported for water and sewer, where our expenses are going to go up. And it's a crime, I think, that they can throw a lawsuit at the town of Mansfield and the appeals that they threaten all the way to the state Supreme Court, that I'm outraged. So I will support this concept and hope that they do a good job. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Beverly Sims, 61 Northwood Road, in Stores. I was very disappointed to hear of the demise of the Capstone Shepherd project, especially as Marty described, resulting in the losses to the town. So I respectfully request that the town leaders work proactively to be sure this doesn't happen in the future to other developments such as Haven.
Okay.
I do support Haven.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the Haven project? Yes, go ahead.
My name is Jim Knox, 146 Birch Road. I too was upset at the demise of the capstone project. Our town needs an answer to the proliferation of poor quality, poorly managed student housing. It's tearing our town to pieces. We need well-designed, well-planned and positioned and regulated spaces for students. Upperclassmen want to get out of the dorms. That's expected. They want to get out on their own. They're looking for places. They can very easily squeeze into some of these landlord boxes because our town is not very good at enforcing its own ordinances about occupancy rates in some of these hovels. So students know they can get in some place with their buddies, 5 or 6 in a place. So we need some place for them to go that is contained and regulated. Can't put them in prison, but we could put them in some kind of a nice development like this. So I supported the capstone. That's dead. This has come along. First time I've seen the details. I'm a little disappointed that they're not providing their own energy. It would be so easy to add solar to something like this. Geothermal is a bit more costly, but certainly solar is cheap to add in. Maybe the commission could push that addition to their plan. But otherwise, I support their development.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Yes, I see a hand. Go ahead.
Bruce Cluette, 483 Woodland Road. I didn't know much about this project, but listening tonight, it sounds like the planning that has gone into it does accomplish a lot of the goals that we have for development in our town. Right now, I'm just an ordinary citizen, but in the early 2000s, I spent 6.5 years on the town council. And during that time, I was a member of a university town coordinating committee. We had our plan of conservation and development. The university had its master plan. And I think it worked to the advantage of both parties to let each other know what they were doing, to see how our goals and objectives aligned and how they differed. In addition to town council members, there were members from other town agencies, including P&Z on that committee. Sometimes we were able to really inform the university in its planning objectives. Sometimes we frustrated them. But it was always a dialogue. Incidentally, at that time, we were told that the university's long-term goal expected a declining percentage of students to be housed on campus. So I'm just mystified as to what has happened since then. It seems like the university and the town are operating not in tandem, but totally independently and without regard to each other's goals and objectives. And I would strongly encourage you on the PZC and as your alter ego, the Inland Wetlands Commission, to try to dialogue with the university. I was a little surprised when I looked through the packet that there were no communications to or from the university on this project. and hope to go back on some of the inland wetland packets and see exactly what their issues are. When I was on the council, the university always was clear to relate its actions to its ongoing strategic plan. And I'd be really curious to see how the university's strategic plan is impacted by projects like these. And I assume that they have laid out a very convincing case in their communications to you that they do. So I've got some digging to do and to understand their position. I just wanted to say that at least as was presented tonight, and I see by your questions, you are going to fill in the details and much more explicitly. But based on the concepts I see tonight, it does sound like the sort of thing that that we have been hoping for and expecting for many years now in Mansfield.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Yes, I see one in the back. Yeah.
My name is Larry Ross. I live at 18 Hillside Circle in Storrs, Connecticut. I'd like to start off by saying I've known Jane and Bob Moskowitz for the last 40 years. They're the couple who own the Holiday Mall where this development is going to take place. I've known Jane and Bob to be sterling people within the community, and I know that they wouldn't be working with any developers who would not give their legacy in town something that they would be proud of. So I support this development wholeheartedly, but I also want to unequivocally say that I'm shocked by the heavy-handedness of the university in what's been taking place, and I don't know whether this is the proper forum or place to vent this kind of frustration. But I've been here since 1965. Homer Babbage was the president when I came here, and I've known pretty much every university president and administration since. And I am just completely bowled over by what's transpired in the last couple of weeks. I don't know why, but I think we've just celebrated our birthday, the 4th of July, which was founded on the concept of no taxation without representation. And this seems to me to be the exact opposite. We're losing our tax base and we have no representation and no voice in that matter. And these are serious dollars. There's been time and effort and money put into this project, into the town plan of development, and it's being pulled out from under us for no real discernible reason. And the university has not been transparent as to why this is going on. And I am just besides myself on why this is happening. And I've said my piece. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor of Haven? Okay. Anyone like to speak in opposition? Okay. There's a third category, right? Questions. Oh, okay. Yes, go ahead.
My name is Ron Cotterill. I'm at 412 Browns Road, and I've listened to this with great interest. I don't purport to be totally understanding of it, but I have a question about all of the bicycles. Where are they going to go? That is not a very bicycle-friendly road. And again, the traffic planning that you get, tends to ignore bicycles, joggers, and walkers. And if you're talking about university kids living out here, that's what they do a lot of the time. So I think there's a disconnect in your focus on people living here as if they were in Scarsdale, New York, Vienna, Virginia. This is Mansfield. In Mansfield, we like to bike, we like to walk, we like to run, and those things should be central in this kind of a project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Richard Roberts. I'm a partner at Halloran Sage, 225 Asylum Street, Hartford, representing the University of Connecticut in connection with Haven's special permit application. Because the application as presented tonight is acknowledged by the applicant to be incomplete and subject to revision, and as submitted it does not comply with the town's zoning regulations, we will respect the commission and the public's time by not engaging in a detailed discussion of the university's concerns and objections to the application at this point. Instead, I will just mention a few of the university's primary concerns. As noted by town staff and the commission's peer reviewers, the application as proposed falls far short of providing the number of parking spaces required under the zoning regulations, lacking as many as 150 or 200 more parking spaces for the number of units proposed. This does not even touch on the possibility that the spaces contained in the structured parking are smaller than what is required by your regulations. We concur with the town staff's comment and Weston and Sampson's conclusion that the applicant's traffic study does not include sufficient information to properly evaluate it. We concur with town staff's observation that the applicant's affordable housing plan and the calculations used to justify its claimed density bonuses are incomplete and ambiguous. We concur with the town's peer reviewers' comment that the applicant's stormwater analysis is missing some of the information required by the regulations in order to determine compliance. As was raised in the context of a prior application for a similar project, it's our contention that the parking structure and wrap building should be limited to 4 structures under the language of the regulations. The additional story for structured parking incorporated into a building contemplates that the parking will be in the same building, not adjacent to it. The policy behind the bonus story is to reduce impervious coverage, and that policy purpose is not furthered by the plan as submitted to the applicant. This commission discussed that very same issue just 2 weeks ago in a regulation review application. Finally, as was raised in the context of the other application, the town's zoning regulations specifically require that the acreage of the site, which is the subject to a conservation easement, must be deducted from the calculation of the developable area for purposes of determining how many units may be constructed. Here, the applicant's calculation fails to deduct approximately 4 acres of non-wetlands land, which must also be deducted from the developable area. As a result, the applicant's base unit count is working off an area of more than 15 acres, when in fact it should be based on approximately 11 acres. This correction would result in a substantial reduction in the number of permitted units and bedrooms. We look forward to reviewing a complete and compliant revision to the application materials and welcome the opportunity to offer the Commission more comprehensive testimony at that time. Thank you.
I have a question for you. What do you have, since you have an insight into the university procedures, how can we better communicate with the university? It reminds me of a movie where they said what we have here is a failure to communicate back in the 60s. And what could we do as PZC to better communicate with the university?
Without speaking on behalf of people for whom I have no authority to speak on behalf of, I would just suggest that the individuals in the development office in the real estate office get in contact with either you or Linda to figure out what the most appropriate way is to continue dialogues. I know that it exists at some levels, but I'm not privy to, you know, all the different touch points between the town and the university. But I think working with town staff, Linda, the town manager, and others, the mayor, you know, with some of the people in the real estate office, in the president's office, and so forth, you know, there would be an opportunity for more robust communication, I suppose.
Do you have any insights into whether the new president would have any different opinions from the outgoing president?
Well, I think the current president is just there in an interim role, so he's probably trying to figure out how to keep all the plates spinning until, you know, they get to the point of, you know, determining what they're going to do in terms of identifying somebody who's going to be president for the long term, but I'm not qualified to speak on that particularly.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
See, there's a third question, a third category, which is information, right? If anyone... If they're not in support or opposition. Right. If you're not in support or opposition. Right. Right. I couldn't have said it better. Yes. In fact, I can't even remember what you said. Information, questions.
The third category is for anyone who is not determined that they are in support or in opposition, if they don't have a position, if they just have questions or seeking information.
Okay. Anyone like that? Yes, there is one. See, someone always falls into every category.
Hi. I'm Celine, 255 Hanksdale Road, Stores. So the same for me, I agree with Coach Ron about solar panel on the greenway, and will they add maybe some buses to have less car? They don't need to have a car there maybe. Will they add a bus line for that building, maybe? Kind of. I'm just, you know.
You have to address the chair.
Oh, the chair?
Yes.
Are you the chair?
Yeah.
I'm not used with conventional stuff. Okay, yeah, so will they add some buses that not everybody needs a car in town, you know what I mean? Or can we start some ecologic car that we can share all together to reduce the impact of all these cars all over, you know? And that is more my concern is about green and recycle. Will there be some recycle container there, or just, again, so much garbage we are producing in town? It just, it's all over. You see all the garbage like over in all stores with no real dishes. It's just, yeah, me, it's the green part of everything that I'm concerned. So it's just reducing the cars amount with buses maybe, stuff like that. And maybe solar panel, and yeah. My name?
Your last name for the record? It's
Demers Schiffler, Demers Schiffler. Yeah. No, I'm just learning about the project. You know, I think can we go green with the stuff a little more than what, you know. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So will there be some buses maybe they want to add? That is the question. Or
it's your job to bring it up, and then it'll be discussed.
Yeah. And recycle, some stuff about recycle and garbage too, if it's possible.
Mr. Chair, while I would defer to the applicant with regard to transit service and renewable energy, I can say that our regulations do require them to provide a recycling plan as part of their overall
Okay,
solid
yeah, so I
waste
just like
strategy.
to know now, because when you look
So
at
that is something that they have to provide, and one of our requirements is that it include tenant education. So as each tenant moves in, that they're given information about recycling.
Yeah. So stuff like that. I'm just concerned for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Yes. Go ahead.
Donna Evan, 36 Deerfield Lane, Stores. Just a simple question. How does this relate to or complement stores downtown? And is it a conflict with stores downtown, or is it a benefit to stores downtown? And I'm very concerned about running, walking, biking on our local roads. And 195 is not a good place, and I don't care what any traffic study shows. With you putting more traffic on that road, it's going to make it more difficult for people who use it for recreation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. I think the plan is to keep this hearing open, right?
It is, and so at this point, I did realize the applicant and I did not have a discussion about when they think they would be ready to come back. We do have a meeting on July 19th, and the next meeting after that is August 2nd, and then we do not have any meetings until I believe the Tuesday after Labor Day. Oh, I was corrected.
It was August.
Thank you. Jen just corrected me. I forgot. We actually moved the first meeting in September to the end of August due to a holiday.
Hi, John Duff for the record. Yeah, August 2nd seems to be the most reasonable date that we will resume the hearing.
Okay. So, do we need a motion to continue the hearing?
You do.
Okay.
And to a date, time, and place certain.
Date, time, and place
so
certain.
You have nothing on the 2nd, Jen?
Mary, could you do that?
I move to continue this public hearing to August 2nd, approximately starting at 6:35 p.m. At here in the town council chambers, town office building.
Moved by Ward.
Second.
Second by
Plant.
Plant. Sorry. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Public hearing is closed at 8:29 p.m. I'm sorry, continued.
Closed for the evening.
Closed for the evening.
At 29 p.m.
Big difference in closed and continued. To be continued. Okay, so now we go to old business. Oh, a break. Okay. Sure, we can do a break. We do generally do a break after 2 hours. Thank you. So we're taking a 5-minute break. Reconvene at 8:35.
For those who didn't hear, the commission is taking a 5-minute break and will reconvene at 8:35.
Okay, so let's get back down to business. Old business, and the old business is the special permit application to authorize. Oh, we're resuming at 8:42. That was a little more than I planned. Yes, I will. So we're moving on to old business, the special permit application to authorize an agrobotic greenhouse project at 438 Browns Road. We have a motion that's been prepared. I think probably the way to proceed would be to bring out the motion and then discuss.
Mr. Chairman, I'll put the motion on. Ken Ron.
Okay.
Move to approve the special permit application for John and Donna Preet, file 1370, to authorize redevelopment of 6 greenhouses at 438 Browns Road, as described in application materials revised through June 7, 2021, and is shown on plans dated March 15, 2021, revised through June 4, 2021. This application was heard at a public hearing that opened on April 5, 2021, and closed on June 7, 2021. In approving this application, the Planning and Zoning Commission considered all public hearing testimony and communications and agreed to receive the revised information submitted by the applicant subsequent to the publication of the public hearing notice. Pursuant to Article 5, Section A.5, the following waivers to the site plan requirements have been granted as part of this approval due to the size of the site and the limits of the development. Submission of existing conditions map for the entire property prepared in accordance with A2 standards by a survey licensed in the state of Connecticut. Course and distance of property lines. Mapping of existing vegetation, including quantity, species, caliper, and height. Identification of existing vegetation to be removed, including locations, size, and species of all trees 9 inches or more in caliper. Site constraints, including topography, prime farmland soils, and wetlands for the remainder of the site that is not proposed to be developed. This approval is granted because the application is considered to be in compliance with Article 5, Section B, and other provisions of the Mansfield zoning regulations. It is granted with the following conditions. 1, extent of approval. This approval is specifically tied to the applicant's submissions and the conditions cited in this motion. Unless modifications are specifically authorized, the proposed uses and site improvements shall be limited to those authorized by this approval. Any questions regarding authorized uses, required site improvements, and conditions cited in this approval shall be reviewed by the zoning agent and the Director of Planning and Development and, as deemed necessary, the Commission. 2, hemp. Pursuant to the Statement of Use revised May 28, 2021, the production of industrial hemp shall be limited to the maximum of 2 greenhouses and to 1 row of hemp per 10 rows or other field crops. Did I read that correctly? Of other field crops. Beg your pardon. Thank you. Production of hemp in excess of these maximums shall require Commission approval pursuant to the revisions of provision of Article 5, Section B.9. Charcoal filtration systems shall be installed in any greenhouse in which hemp is to be grown prior to the planting such crop. 3, lighting. The applicant shall install blackout screens to reduce light emissions from both the roof, Obscura 9950 FRW, and sidewalls, Obscura 10070R FRW, of each greenhouse. Should the applicant opt to use a different screening system, the specifications of such system shall be submitted to the Commission for review and approval prior to installation and to ensure that the specifications are equivalent to or greater than the systems specified in this approval. These screens shall be used whenever lighting is used within the greenhouses to supplement daylight between the hours of 6 p.m. and 7 a.m. 4, noise. To comply with the performance standards outlined in the zoning regulations, noise at the property line shall not exceed 55 decibels from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. and 45 decibels during all other hours. 5, natural diversity database. No zoning permit shall be issued for the project until a determination from the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, CT DEEP, regarding the natural diversity database review has been submitted. The applicant shall comply with all recommendations and best management practices identified in such determination. If CT DEEP determination impacts overall use or design of the site, a modification to the special permit pursuant to Article 5, Section B.9 may be required. Grading and excavation. The Commission authorizes a separation distance of 33 inches from the maximum groundwater elevation pursuant to Article 10, Section 10.5.h, based on the determination that the applicant has documented that the reduction from 5 feet of separation to 33 inches of separation will not determinately impact permitted uses of the site or groundwater quality. Signs. The applicant specifically noted that no identity sign was proposed as part of this application. Any future request to install an identity sign shall require the Commission approval as a revision pursuant to the provisions of Article 5, Section B.9.b. Final plan revisions. The following revisions shall be made prior to the issuance of a zoning permit. A. Revise the site permit to specify that stones shall be salvaged as part of the driveway relocation project, be used to fill in the gap of the existing stone wall where the current driveway entrance is located, and such wall construction shall be completed using the same techniques as the existing stone wall to ensure a seamless transition. B. A note is added indicating that no stones from the existing stone wall shall be removed from the site without express permission from the Planning and Zoning Commission. C. We will revise the site plans to address comments noted on June 3, 2021 from the town engineer that have not already been addressed. 9. Validity. This permit shall not become valid until the applicant obtains a special permit form from the planning office and files it on the land records.
Moved by Ron. Second by Cotton. Yes.
Mr. Chair, just two clarifications. In the first line, on the motion to approve it, where it says authorize redevelopment, that should say development. So that was a typo on my part. And a clarification on under final plan revisions, that the memo is from the assistant town engineer, not the town engineer. So, assistant town engineer. Yeah.
Okay, so those changes are acceptable?
They're acceptable.
Okay, all right. Discussion. Farrell, you always have something to say. Get it close.
I'll just say what my thinking is on this. It's a legal use of the land, and the concerns that were raised regarding the lighting, the odor, the noise, hopefully have been addressed and can be regulated. The one thing I have a problem with is the water. The development had their expert, and the residents had an expert speak, but we did not have an impartial study on that. And for that reason, I don't feel I can vote for this, because it's not clear to me that there won't be some impact. So those are my thoughts.
Being a traveler on Browns Road all the time, I just don't feel personally that this development is a good spot on Browns Road. I mean, there's so much other lands in this town that would be traffic-wise and all that stuff that would affect it. I really have a hard time agreeing with this.
Luann, it looks like you want to say something. I can tell. I can see through your mask.
Well, the only thing that I would say is I do agree that I think this is an agricultural use, and so I'm pleased that we've had an opportunity to see the site plans, but I do think that this is a valid use of the property. I recognize the concerns. I'm not sure we fully addressed them, but I do think that we have addressed them within our mandate, if that makes sense.
Ken?
Mr. Chairman, I put the motion on. I do support the project. I, with others, have reservations, and I truly hope that the management and the ownership of Agbotic Project have listened and are willing to go along with the conditions, because this is a project that meets the use, I think, as Luann has expressed. But it's obviously that all of us have some reservations about it.
Go ahead.
I would hope that I would like to see this addressed more fully, the problems, especially, as I said, the water. And if that means they have to come back with a new application, that's what they have to do. But I really don't feel good about approving this as it stands.
Any other discussion? Yes, go ahead.
I like the idea of this type of technology, but I do have my concerns about that we can't regulate the traffic on Browns Road, that we can't say that only a certain poundage on the vehicles going on that road, that we can't limit that. Also, too, I have seen housing developments go in and they hit the aquifer and everybody around them loses their water. So that is a very viable concern. So maybe they need to have an independent person tell us that they're not going to take all the water from all of their neighbors. Thank you.
I'm off.
You're on.
I just want to say to my fellow commissioners, there were valid concerns raised. Whether we think we can address the odor, we don't know for sure. The lighting, and the noise level, that probably can be addressed. But once we pass it, it's done. I don't think we're ready. I don't think we've got quite enough information to say this will not be a major disturbance to the neighborhood in ways that can't be corrected. I just don't think we can say that.
Well, I think it's time to vote on this. I'll do a roll call. I think that in this case it would be good to do a roll call. Okay, all right. Right. Okay, starting with Carlita.
Yes, in favor.
Okay. Ken?
Aye.
Aye.
Luann? Aye. Aho? Aye.
Plant, no.
For Tony, no.
Cooley, aye.
I believe that's 6-3. The motion passes. We had Mansfield Affordable Housing Plan. Did we come up with from that special meeting, did we come up with
At the special meeting, you decided that you were going to discuss it at this meeting.
Okay.
And so there was the public hearing. You did not get very much, many comments from the public, but again, there had been 2 surveys associated with this plan where you got almost 900 responses from the first survey and 150 responses from the second survey. So you have a couple options. The first would be to discuss it, and we could work with a member to prepare a motion. If there are not many comments, you could approve it as is, or approve it with changes, or not approve it at all. So those are your options.
And I think once you take action, we'll also send that to the council because you did do a joint meeting. So our goal is for both bodies to adopt the plan because there are land use components to that plan, and then there are also components that fall under the town council jurisdiction in terms of particularly the housing trust. So that we would like to see this ultimately adopted by both bodies.
Ken?
Having been the chair for this particular meeting, I think I was privy to, never mind, Paul, okay. I think there were 2 pieces in particular that I'd like to hear from the rest of the commission about. One involved our working as a group to increase the percentage of affordable housing units. I think it was made clear by our consultant that the 10% eventually would not get us to where we really wanted to be, and that for us to be able to have a workable plan, we were going to need to increase that number. I can remember lots of discussions and reading the plans from Burlington. It seems like sometime back in the dark ages, but it's clear to me now that if we have a project with 300 units and we only have 10%, we're probably never going to get to that 10% number. It just isn't going to happen. So I think increasing that percentage is something we have to consider. 2, there were various funding components for affordable housing. Initially, I was interested in the fee in lieu, but the thing that concerned me was that what we had was money and we weren't necessarily going to get the housing, that there needed to be some other plan, organization, group. So I was less attracted to that. I thought the possibility of some kind of inclusionary funding, I believe that's the title it was used, that is passing the costs on to, for example, building permits, 2%, 1%, 5%, whatever it might be, as a way of funding affordable housing, giving that seed money, for example, to the Mansfield Housing Authority. I've since had some second thoughts about that, and I now look at affordable housing as part of our infrastructure. I think we need to think about it as being part of our town as much as we do our parks, roads, our community center, our town offices, and that a way to do this is to have a much more broad-based approach, that is to fund it through tax dollars. That would be my view I'm expressing now. That it be part of the town council's capital improvement plan to fund affordable housing through some form of our taxes.
I agree that might be the way to get the money, but we can hardly get them to agree to support the community center the way you would think as a service it should be. But the thing that concerned me was the I forget who I was talking to. I think it was a town council member about deed restriction. I don't see that being a good way to go, because everybody that has deed restriction has regretted it because of the tenants they get, that they don't pay their rent, and then it takes 6 months to get them out, especially if they're HUD sponsored. So that's a tough call. I don't think it should be deed restriction that they entertain the thought of. I think that's not popular with the landlords that have it now. They beg us to take off restrictions when we can't. So, you know, I don't know how them. And the other thing is, our building splurge is going to come all at once, and then it's going to dissipate. So our fee in lieu is not going to keep regenerating itself. So that's the other problem. So I really, your comment about taxes, if you can get the town to support that, that seems to me one of the ways. But
what I was suggesting here a few moments ago is that that's what I think is for us to discuss, and I would like to see us present that to town council. Because I agree with you about the other parts, and I think the only way that we really get this done on a continuing basis is to have a continuing source of funds for this.
I mean, and how much money is it going to take? Is it millions of dollars? I mean, I would assume hundreds of millions of dollars. How we as a town can't produce that kind of money.
Go ahead.
No, because I was going to say something, Luann, that I shouldn't have.
Well, now I really want to know what you have to say.
I was just going to say that this is a complex issue. There is no one simple solution. And one thing I was trying to bring up at the meeting, but I don't think that the consultant actually grasped what I was saying, is that we actually have to pursue multiple lines to attack this as an issue. Simply having fee in lieu is not going to get you there, clearly. But having the kind of development that we saw presented today, while it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with affordable housing, by creating housing that will open housing in other areas that could potentially be affordable. Our bigger problem, I think, isn't that we can't build housing or that we can't get more housing of all types in the town that will then free up more affordable housing. Part of our problem is how the state is counting this. And we have an issue in that we have what you want to call naturally occurring housing that is not being counted. And I honestly do feel like this is an issue that's going to need to be taken up at the state level, because we are not seeing any movement across the entire state on getting close to meeting the goals for affordable housing. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with those goals, and we should have goals, and we need to increase it. But the trying to do it with a stick from the state is not working. Okay, so I think as a town, I don't think there's anything wrong with fee in lieu if that you have a place for that money to go to be used. It could be used to do town match grants for affordable housing grants, because everybody thinks we need more affordable housing, but you're not going to get it through tax dollars entirely. A small tax increase may be palatable, but if you look at the survey, everybody says, yes, we need to do this, and nobody wants to pay for it. You're going to have a very hard time if your only mechanism is to try to raise money through taxes. So I think approaching it from multiple ways is the way to do it.
More than one way.
Yeah. Now, I did listen to the tape, and it seemed like they were emphasizing new buildings versus converting existing natural. And if we have naturally affordable houses that don't need any repairs, can we switch those to affordable housing? Yeah, we'd have to pay them to put a deed restriction on.
Or they would have to volunteer. If you look at the strategies, I guess what I'm thinking is that maybe, what I'm hearing is that we need to discuss this maybe further and come up with a motion. That's sort of what I'm hearing tonight. But if you do look at the strategies, I do think that there is a multi-pronged approach here laid out. And you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it from fee and lieu. You're not going to get it from, you know, changing the inclusionary zoning from 10% to 12%. It's going to have to be, you know, all hands on deck. So I think, and this is a plan, and we are statutorily required to adopt a plan. So what we're trying to do is decide, is there something else in this plan that we need to include before we adopt it? Once we adopt this plan, we have a whole list of ways that we're going to have to implement it. And part of that is establishing an affordable housing trust and prioritizing those expenditures. So, and that's where a lot of that is going to happen. But so I'm not sure if there, part of me wonders if we should have a special meeting with the town council so that we're all the same ears and eyes are hearing the same thing. But I don't know if if we have the time to, if we can make that happen with their schedule. So what are your thoughts, Linda, on this?
I think the fact that you guys had, and I apologize for missing the meeting, but I think the fact that the two groups came together for that public hearing was important, and I like the idea of kind of having if we can get it, a meeting for you to sit down and again have a joint discussion. As Jen said, in the plan itself, it gives just so many options for how you fund this, how you implement it from a zoning perspective, and again, I think our consultant was probably trying not to overwhelm people with the tons of examples and options that are listed. But, in looking at it today, when we talk about strategies, it says including but not limited to. And it was really intended to kind of give you a flavor that there are a variety of ways that we can approach this. And I think, having that discussion again, because you as a body control land use. So you can look at zoning regulations. What can we do from a zoning standpoint to facilitate and encourage affordable housing? The council has the financial control over this. So, you control the fee in lieu. So that's part of the zoning regulations if you're doing a development project. Other types of fees will fall under the council. So a permit fee, any type of budgetary appropriation, annual appropriation, that comes under the council. And I think those discussions going onwards, I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably even after the plan is adopted, are going to be important because there are so many different ways to tackle this. And, Vera, with what you were saying, we have two houses that are deed restricted. And, at least one of them, the owner has come into me on repeated basis and said, I can't sell my house. And it's not necessarily that they can't sell their house, but they can't sell it for what their neighbors' houses sell for. But again, they also got a reduced purchase price because of the restrictions that are on it. And I think, Luann, I believe I'd have to go back. I think the comments that we provided on the Desegregate Connecticut initiative actually talked about, for example, mobile homes and saying, mobile homes in and of themselves provide affordable housing, and not counting those, really puts some communities. Well, and if we're wrong, please.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm a mobile home owner.
Yep.
My taxes have doubled since I bought that. And when I went to the town, I was told that I paid too much for my mobile home. And so everybody around me, some of their taxes went up too, because everybody wanted to live in Rolling Hills. But mobile homes depreciate. They don't appreciate, no matter what you do to them. I'm in a 1975 trailer, and it'll always be I'm supposed to say mobile home. 1975 mobile home. I don't live in a trailer park. I live in a mobile home park. but it's, you know,
Live in a
threading
neighborhood, Katie.
Yeah, and it is affordable housing. It's what I could afford at the time. But the taxes are getting to the point where, and it's just personal property type taxes. It's, I don't own the land.
Because you don't own the land, so it's just,
Right.
it's on the actual unit itself.
Yeah. And that, it should be going down every year because it's getting older every year.
I agree with Katie because I am stunned. I just bought over there and I got my taxes and I thought, why did I sell my house? I should have just stayed with my house. Mobile homes are supposed to depreciate. I mean, I'm overwhelmed by taxes.
Yeah. So it's, yeah.
We don't even own the land.
Yeah.
So we're not getting taxed for the land. I just have a mobile home. That's all I have.
Yeah, it's a tin can, so to speak.
And
But it's a comfortable tin can, but it's still a tin can.
And I have to say, we do housing rehab projects in Rolling Hills, and every time I drive through, I'm like, this is such a nice little neighborhood.
Oh, it's a
Like
beautiful
it is
neighborhood.
just it is really like it's just not. I think when a lot of people think of mobile homes, that is not what they're thinking of. And when you
No,
drive
it
through
is a
it's
beautiful park.
It's a
They have
community, and
really high standards on the landscaping and all of that. And
So-
they put in some new double wide mobile homes that are absolutely beautiful. But
I wonder if that may be a question, quite frankly, for the assessor as well. In terms of is this a statutory issue or is it a Mansfield issue? And try and understand that, because that may be another thing to address at the state level. In terms of, because if this is stemming from statutes, and I do not know tax appraisal or assessment law, so I'm not going there. But if it is, that means other communities are experiencing it as well. And the reason they don't count the naturally occurring is, quite frankly, kind of for periods we have right now when you have a hot real estate market and it's escalating those values of homes, and so there isn't a control on it, because you have a lot of people looking to buy. And I think we had a real estate agent in our office a few weeks ago. She's like, I'm pounding the pavement. I'm looking for things to sell, because of the level of demand. And so that's why we have it. But I think we cannot be the only community that experiences this. And and I think the idea as well is, the state has kind of used this, it's been the stick approach for the most part. If you don't have 10%, here's the ramifications for you. I think, the question then becomes, as a town, as we implement an affordable housing plan, what carrots do we want? If we don't want to use the stick approach, what are the carrots that we can offer to have people do this?
Is it possible that the state may change their mind about, if they want affordable housing and we have affordable housing, then the law is not trying to create affordable housing, it's trying to create a bureaucracy.
I think it's such a larger discussion that there are, I would say, a lot of different viewpoints. I think Mansfield is a community that has voiced its support, and I know our consultants, when we did the initial survey, were shocked at the number of responses. Is 880 responses to the first survey. And I think the only community where they got more was one where, quite frankly, it is a controversial issue and they don't want it. And so, whereas we were getting responses from people going, no, we, bring it in. We think this is good. We think it's important to the community. And I think.
So I guess, this plan is really to look at what the tools that we have available to us right now, to so that we have some mechanism in place to increase affordable housing. So,
but it's not to increase affordable housing. It's to increase state certified.
To increase the deed restricted units, which
Deed
is
restricted.
what counts for your 830G.
But
So
that's-
10% of your units need to be restricted so that they're affordable. Otherwise, you are people, you can have an A30G development come in. And so if you don't want to have those and you want to have more control locally, you have to get to that 10% level.
And that's what we have to work with right now.
Right.
I
That's
mean,
what you do.
we have to work under those rules right now.
Right.
I would just say that I think that the plan that is before us is a good plan. I think that we all recognize that this is complicated. It's going to take a lot of thought. It's going to take a lot of coordination between the PZC and the town council. But I don't have any problem adopting it as is, with that recognition that this is a plan that we are adopting right now, and that there is more that we can do.
I mean, I think the strategy one, strengthen the town's capacity to further affordable housing. We've got the establish a permanent housing committee, provide adequate staffing and skill set to administer affordable housing programs, provide an affordable housing training to staff members and land use boards, and amend the POCD to include the affordable housing plan. That's required by statute. And then, so those are some of the things that this commission has, can weigh in on. And then establishing a housing trust fund is more council. And then and prioritizing the trust fund expenditures. That's something that you're going to provide feedback on, but ultimately the council will make that decision. And then in terms of evaluating funding mechanisms for the housing trust fund, modifying the current inclusionary zoning requirements. Right now, there's a set aside of 10%. The plan recommends that it go to 12%. Evaluate the use of inclusionary zoning fees. And this, again, is evaluate. It doesn't mean that you have to do this. It would serve as an alternative for funding mechanism for housing trust fund that is tied less to the local housing market. So it would. This is what we would charge a small fee on certain types of development permits. We did hear feedback from one of the council members that he was not necessarily in support of that. He felt that it should come from, say, the general fund. But again, this strategy is to evaluate the use of this. It's one tool in the kit.
It's not prescriptive. It's saying look at the options. I think this commission started this a few years ago, and and we created the inclusionary zoning, the fee in lieu. And I will say I had interesting correspondence with someone, with a resident after. I think he tried to bring up something it might have been that ad hoc committee, and so I really had email exchange just trying to explain, what the fee in lieu was, with regards to a certain project. But, someone was saying, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to build 50 units of housing with a fee in lieu that you might get. What it does do is provide leverage to other projects that they can go and seek funding and say, I'm getting $500,000 from the town of Mansfield. I'm getting, and so it actually is helping them get the loans and the grants that they need for to do mixed income projects. Because the reality is there is no way to do, especially deeper affordability, like a 50% or a 60 or even a 60% a unit that is affordable to someone at that income without subsidy from the government. It's not going to pay for itself. And so it provides that, but that's only, again, as Jen said, it's one tool. It's, there are so many other ideas, and combined, you and the council may go, we don't like the deed restriction idea. We don't think that is a great mechanism, and we need to push the state on legislation and work with other communities to have some of this addressed.
Also, to Luann's point, and to all of your points, actually, we have two things. We want more affordable housing. We want to create a better community where families can live here and have affordable units. And then we also, per the state mandate, have to have we want to move towards that goal of the state counted 10% units. So we have to, there are two goals, and so I guess I don't know, you guys, this is a pretty broad plan. You're going to have the opportunity to update it in 5 years, and actually probably sooner, because we'll include it in our next POCD revision, which is coming up very quickly. So, so I know 2015 seems like such a long time, such a short time ago. Anyways, how would you like to proceed based on this?
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
The Housing Authority has plans for Dumpy River Road, and I believe that their presentation, they said that they could only guarantee maybe 30% of that housing. And how are they going to be funded? How did they expect to get their money to build this?
So when they came in for their presentation, I think what they said was we commit to a minimum of 30, which was under the 830G. You have to agree to a minimum of 30%. The most recent numbers I have for them, and this is contingent on the funding source that they're working with, and whether or not that happens, was actually that I think 2/3 of the units were going to be affordable, and some of them were going to be affordable to people at 50% and median. So when they came before you for site plan approval, what they were saying was 830G says we have to guarantee you 30%. Until they nail down a funding source, they don't know what those numbers are going to be, because all different funding sources have different requirements for both numbers and levels of affordability. So, they've been working with the State Department of Housing, and every year you have to, and I want to say last year they did not make the cut, and every year you have to reapply. So one of the things we've been hearing from them is that, and oh, by the way, every year there's less money in the pot that is available, and so what the state could potentially award them is going down every year. But one of the things they were looking for last year was, what can you give us that we can give the state that says we have other money coming in? And this was before any projects were submitted to the commission, and they were saying, do you have any idea what the family might be that we might get that we can tell? I'm like, no. No, I can't. What they could do is go forward and say, okay, I believe the town council had approved a payment in lieu of taxes at that point for them. So, they could show some commitment from the town. But
So this Haven project, they are planning to do the affordable apartments. Is that what it looks like?
well, we can't talk about that right now.
Where is it coming from? I mean, looking for that in the paperwork, it's come out.
They do it. If you look at my comments, I have some comments on their affordable housing plan. So that just
It's in their development impact statement on page 33. Yeah.
So it's again, I think they're different. As Jen said, it's kind of like a toolbox. It says there's a lot of different ways that we can approach this. We're not tied down to one way in which we want to get affordable units. We are not tied down to one funding mechanism. You can explore different ones to figure out how to do this.
But we are tied to restricting the deed.
Well, if you want to meet the state 10%, you could choose not to, but then, that.
Because I think the best way to get affordable housing would be to go toward the missing middle.
Well, that's also in here.
And not have.
That's one of your tools.
Not have houses on 90,000 square feet.
And one of the things that did pass in the new zoning reform act is that any accessory units created after the effective date of that legislation will not be counted against the base unit count for the town. So, in retrospect, I wish that it was any efficiency, or accessory unit would not be counted in the base, but they're going from that legislation forward because, and again, I think that was, to Luann's point, a carrot of saying, yeah, we're going to tell you that you need to allow accessory units by right. And I was part of a lot of discussions with different groups before that went forward, and there were a lot of communities who were like, we can't do that. We can't do that. And I'm going, no, we did it. You can handle septic, you can do other things. But by saying you need to allow those units, what they've also said is, but we're not gonna penalize you then, because you're now creating something that I'm going to go with, in theory, should be affordable. Because I can't tell you that every accessory apartment in Mansfield is going to meet an affordability definition, but they're saying we're not gonna count that against your base number of units.
And maybe we should advocate for mobile homes to be the same.
Yeah, and we can.
I think that's great.
We absolutely can.
Can we, is there any reason we can't move on this tonight?
I was just going to say.
Oh, we can.
It would be great if you.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion?
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the housing plan as presented.
Okay, moved by Cooley. Second by DeVivo.
And that's to adopt.
Adopt and then, yeah.
Any discussion?
Now, we can go back to this in 5 years, right?
We're going to do it
We can go
sooner.
back to it next year if you want to update it, but we'd rather wait 5 years. But this, I think, is broad enough that it allows you to do a number of
freeways.
Yeah.
Because I think what you're going to want to do is, once you adopt it and start implementing it, you're just like with zoning, you're going to find out, look, that didn't work the way we thought it would, and
We might want to do strategy A, C, and E,
Right.
but not.
And we tried this, but nope, we're not doing that.
All in favor? Unanimous.
Do forward to the town council.
So I
No.
think what we're going to do, we'll just let the council know.
Can I just make one comment?
Did we get a second? Okay, DeVivo, yeah.
Yeah, can I just make one comment? I'm not sure we all appreciate what a unique town we live in with regard to affordable housing. The fact that we've had a project that came before us and we had no opposition is astonishing. The fact that we've had this much of many people in our town that are interested in this, that are thinking about it, that are looking at it positively, and the fact that we are having robust discussions to figure out how to get there says a lot about this community. And it makes me really proud to live here. So,
Having just come from my family's home where there's signs all over the place opposing affordable housing, it's crazy. Yeah, everyone is so up in a lather. But so yeah, I came home and I was like, this is a good spot.
So the special permit application of Haven Communities is tabled, and Capstone Collegiate Communities is worse than tabled.
So at this point, it is tabled. I will note for the record that the packet was updated this evening. We received multiple communications this afternoon from residents regarding Capstone. So while it was tabled, I did consult with the town attorney, and he said, "Yeah, go ahead and you can add those to the packet just so the commission is aware of them because they were all addressed to you." So. At this point, it's tabled. If that changes, we will let you know. Right now, the hearing is scheduled for to be continued July 19th.
So it's not a done deal.
Well,
It's a done deal.
it has not formally been withdrawn. So until I have a formal withdrawal in my hands, it's scheduled. You know, what I can say is that the Board of Trustees, did approve acquisition of that property. What else needs to happen is, that's something I'm sure the university is working on.
Okay. So are we going to have a reg review committee meeting?
So regulatory review, the question that I had for you, and I think I might actually be on the wrong meeting agenda. Oh, I am. Somehow I ended up on June 21st. So regulatory review is scheduled for Thursday, and the question I had for the commission is, at your last meeting you adopted the moratorium on cannabis establishments, and as part of that discussion there was a request that for regulatory review and working on this, that we make an attempt to kind of broaden the scope so it's not just the normal 4 members of regulatory review, but find time for the entire commission to be part of this. So, my question is, how do we want to start this? Do we want to start with the small group, work out to the commission, and then work out to the other bodies? So one of the other, when you talked about doing the moratorium, one of the reasons was to give you time to consult with the town council, the Economic Development Commission, the Agriculture Committee, town university relations and get input on how to best address these uses in Mansfield. And so before I schedule a meeting, you know, that's quite frankly the most pressing item, one of the most pressing items you have. The town council in their discussion of this specifically requested that the commission, if at all possible, not take the full 9 months of the moratorium to get this done. They wanted to see movement on it quicker than that. So my question is, how do you want to start?
Ken, do you have an idea?
Several.
Okay.
But I'll stick to just this one. I think having a conversation amongst ourselves on this issue, on the moratorium for cannabis establishments, I'd like to see that done first before we broaden it out to having any shared conversation. I just think that that's far too unwieldy, that Economic Development Commission, Town Council, all at the same time. Let's talk about it among ourselves and then have that meeting with the rest.
So depending,
that's my view on it.
and I was gonna say, depending on what happens with, you know, when we receive, you know, if and when we receive a formal withdrawal of the capstone project, that is, we have 2 hearings scheduled for the 19th. We have that application as well as the application of Champagne Toy Store regarding a text amendment, and so those 2 were put on the same evening. And
That's a pretty light evening as of now.
Assuming we get a withdrawal of the capstone project, that's a light evening, so that may be a time for you as the full commission to say we want to start talking about this and what do we think?
Are we still having the special meeting on the 13th?
Yes. Okay. Yes. So we have 2 applications that are tabled. Items E and F on your agenda were tabled to a special meeting on July 13th. And I will tell you, I think for the first time ever, we came out dead even in who could attend which. And so we just had to make a call, and Jen reminded me that Thursday was not a good night for her, the 15th. So it's her birthday.
I would still come on my birthday.
But I basically, when I was leaving for vacation, said, Jen, we're dead even, pick a day. And she's like, well, I'm going with the 13th.
That's next Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
How many are able to attend on the 13th? What's that, a Tuesday? Yeah.
Tuesday. I think it was split. We were split. I have an Excel spreadsheet somewhere that says who could do it, but we were evenly split between the 2 meetings, but there was a quorum, and you know, so we'll have we have 2 hearings. I'm not sure how long each of them will be, and I have to, now that we're past this meeting, start focusing on those 2 to make sure we have the information that we need. Otherwise, it may be very quick in terms of opening and continuing, because the legal notices were published for those, correct? Yeah. So we'll be checking those applications to see where they stand.
Okay.
And I apologize for the warmth in here, everybody.
So I think
everyone
that's
ahead of time.
it for today, right? We are adjourned at 9:36. I've got a gavel.
Could you all please shut down your computers?
Yep.
Thank you.
I don't know, not expected home till 11:30.
What are you gonna do?
Go to a bar. Yeah. Right.
Do you want us to disconnect them all?
If you just shut them down, we have permission from IT to just leave them
Leave it,
overnight
okay.
and